should either align with their birth sex or their gender role. Why would both directions be like cis women rather than cis men?
That, my dear, is the exact question. Why do you think it is that transmascs respect women? Why don't we objectify them like cis men do?
I do not know, because you do not carry your brains in your dicks, because you do not have dicks.
Transmascs respect women not because we nobly chose to see them as equals or whatever cis male feminists think they're doing, but because the alternative is literally unfathomable to us. We grew up with them, and not just with them, but treated as one of them. Our peers and role models and authority figures and oppressors were women. Matriarchy is an authoritarian system. It relies on absolute authority. It can't be threatened, merely offended, like that cop in, I'm going to talk about Abigail again, Philosophy Tube's video on police making up the law, who felt disrespected by pesky checks and balances imposed on police officers like himself. And unlike patriarchy, matriarchy doesn't kick people out. It tortures them as punishment. In my own domestic abuse situation, I was not kicked out for breaking contract. I was punished by the landlady for not snitching on my hoarder housemates. I chose honor over obedience to the matriarchal authority, loyalty to my peers rather than to her. Honor is a patriarchal concept, and matriarchy disapproves of it. My landlady didn't kick me out, even though she could have. All three of us had broken contract by not taking care of the garden at the very least. She even feigned sympathy for my difficult situation at first. But she blamed me for the state the house was in after the hoarders left, even if she didn't say it straight up. Because if I told her sooner, it could have been prevented, couldn't it? And God, I mean, look at the state of this place. The cleaner's never seen anything this bad in her whole career. How could it come to this? It definitely wasn't because she never checked in on her property like any reasonable landlord would, because she lived abroad and failed to get a local proxy to do it for her. She was literally old friends with the neighbor who also did the original viewings for her. She could have just sent her over to check on us every few months, or at least report stuff to her. And all of it could have been caught so much earlier. So much damage to the house and to me could have been prevented. The neighbors knew about the yelling. They could hear it through the wall. They even knocked on it a few times to get them to shut up. They must have known about the state of the garden too. They could see it over the fence. I mean, it was her first house. She was renting it out because she was too emotionally attached to sell it. And so she wanted us to love her house just as much. Not for our or the house's sake, but to keep us in line, to keep us from being bad tenants. People prefer female tenants over male ones. Why is that? Why should female tenants be any more trustworthy than male ones? Any less risky to let female strangers into your property than male ones? Any good business person renting out their property should have plenty of safeguards in place to prevent or prepare for potential damage, irregardless of the temperament of their potential tenants. You inherently shouldn't trust someone you're in a transactional relationship with beyond the terms of that relationship, or without accounting for them breaking even those terms. I've made sure to have landlords since then who view it as the business transaction that it is. I broke myself trying to atone for the sins of others and my sin of not being a snitch. She had me collect the hoarder's leftover trash from every nook and cranny before the cleaner came, even though I was still recovering from top surgery. Before I moved out myself, I cleaned my tiny room so thoroughly that I was sore from it, and there was no dirt. Her clean freak of a niece seemingly disagreed, so the landlady deducted money from my deposit. Not just the agreed part that I should pay for the gardeners and cleaner, but also to pay her niece for cleaning my room after I'd left, as if I'd done nothing at all. And when I told her I didn't think it was fair to deduct that much, after all I'd done to help fix things, she stole the full amount instead. Because one does not simply challenge matriarchal authority. How could I objectify women? They'd punish me if I tried. Worse, they'd get me to punish myself like a good little brainwashed sheep. You can't objectify your abuser. You may be able to dehumanize them, see them as a monster, but you can't see them as an object, because an object wouldn't have been able to do that to you. Matriarchal brainwashing made me compromise on my body. As a teen, it gaslit me into believing the mind-numbing level of discomfort I was feeling was normal, because puberty sucks for everyone, discouraging me from looking into it more, while my very bones were permanently and irreparably fucked up by the wrong hormones. Later, I hesitated going private for HRT despite being financially able to, and I didn't realize just how strongly I disidentified with my yonic anatomy until I was rid of some of it. I chose not to get rid of my period for years out of solidarity to cis women, despite it doing nothing but hurting and draining my body every month. And the fact that if there is any meaning that can be attached to it, it makes me fucking dysphoric. It was a blood sacrifice to show my subservience to my matriarchal oppressors, to keep that sense of superiority over men they instilled in me, this secret knowledge to be remembered by continuing the ritual, because the alternative would be to forget and be cast into oblivion along the filth that is unbleeding men. Period is used as a symbol of womanhood as suffering. The period was never the worst part of it. And you can literally stop or lessen it with meds, even if you're not trans. All that suffering is a means to prove your loyalty and serfdom to the motherland, something to upkeep, the same as man upkeeps his phallus, like an anti-phallus. To reinforce what man sees as castration, watch us bleed from our gaping laps. Fear us, for we do not fear castration, nor blood, nor pain, nor suffering. We grow stronger from it. We get off to it. There is nothing you can do to us that will make us lose to the likes of you. To call freedom oblivion and chains loyalty. Women are fucked up little bastards, and God, I hope they get better. Dude, if you thought that building your whole sense of self on a historically very easily removed body part was whack, try building it on your own sadomasochistic suffering, including a literal monthly blood sacrifice ritual. Evolutionarily, periods should be a symbol of sexual freedom. They differentiate us from species that have a mating season and then reabsorb unused tissue. We shed that tissue in order to be able to reproduce year-round. Periods are the reason why we as a species get to be horny year-round. Why if you want a baby, you don't have to wait a whole year for another attempt. Periods are the only thing standing between us and the Omegaverse. You should be grateful. Matriarchic loyalty supersedes your own needs, comfort, and better judgment. It demands a resignation to the idea that your body is something that hurts you and feels bad. Being a woman shouldn't be suffering. If you are suffering because of your body, self, or feelings, that is not right. And definitely not the thing to base your whole gender identity on. Learn from trans women and love being a woman. And if you don't love being a woman, then don't be. Bodies can be changed, even the shitty ones. I'm living proof of that. Don't let your body limit you. Matriarchy brings people in rather than exile them, and therefore is more effective at retaining control over them. Matriarchy and patriarchy take different approaches to policing. Under patriarchy, regardless of quality, approved behavior is praised while disapproved behavior is ridiculed. Successes in approved behavior are celebrated. Like, my electrician lads would cheer for me whenever I managed to do a basic task, like, sawing through some metal or something. The misogyny made for a low bar, but even if you fail or struggle with it, what matters is that you tried, and you will be supported in trying again. The grind set attitude encourages activity and problem solving rather than giving up and settling for less. When I would complain about being too weak to do manual labor properly, my lads would offer to take me to the gym. And I'm like, I appreciate the offer, but I don't do gym, thank you very much, There is the kind of gays that go to the gym for gay reasons, and then there is the gays that don't go to the gym for gay reasons. I am the latter category. I am too gay for gym, you can't make me. Only approved behavior is claimed and taken seriously. Disapproved behavior is ridiculed, not taken seriously, and harshly punished to prevent you from doing it again. Quality is not a consideration. If you're so good at it that you need to be taken seriously in it, you will be delegated to matriarchy, exiled. Patriarchy washes its hands of you rather than claiming that success for itself because it is a success and something that it doesn't want its people to be doing to begin with. Like, trans femmes and drag queens' ability to be very pretty is not something patriarchy claims as a success, speaking to AMAP people's inherent potential to be just as beautiful as cis women given the opportunity and means. It doesn't want to claim them. So it's like, no, they're matriarchy's problem now. We don't know those people. They're not ours. On the matriarchy, it's about quality alone, not about whether or not you're supposed to be doing the thing. If you lack the quality, you are treated like a child, to be supervised because it can't be trusted on its own, to be scolded if it misbehaves, and to be thoroughly instructed until its quality is up to snuff. Being careful and overly thorough rather than daring and reckless is rewarded because it'll spare you some scolding from messing up in anything you're not highly competent in yet. This leads to significantly more hesitation and perfectionism than patriarchy's approach. You need to reach the required level of quality to be acknowledged as a fellow adult. Talking to women in costume and fashion at networking events, my sewing skills tend to be recognized fairly quickly. When they are, they start treating me as a peer worthy of respect and talk to me with a level of openness that I know women reserve for their in-group alone. Instead of the distant and careful to the point of patronizing way they tend to talk to someone they assume to be less skilled than them. However, you are not rewarded with praise for your achievements. This is the expected level of quality. You've reached par. That doesn't make you special, merely adequate and safe to claim as an in-group member as opposed to the embarrassment you would have been before. Instead, your reward is an absence of supervision and scolding. I went to this local sewing class in my old neighborhood for a few weeks last year, and the teacher was this very grumpy, middle-aged professional costumer. She'd walk around and help the other students with plenty of judgy opinions about what looked good and what didn't in general or on specific people, and pitiful exasperation at their incompetence to put together the basic sewing patterns they brought in. Whenever she passed by me on her round, she'd ask if I needed help with anything. I didn't, because what we were doing was baby shit to me, and she'd recognize and validate this not with praise, but with approving silence and by moving on without further comment. I was judged competent enough to be allowed to continue without supervision. You get free reign and privacy under the surveillance state because your quality and thereby your matriarchal status is high enough that you couldn't betray the motherland you're a vassal of even if you tried. Matriarchy defines its public image through its members' quality, not their mindset like patriarchy. Please note, the objectification matriarchy does to its in-group to prevent them from questioning it, while patriarchy gives its in-group agency to keep them busy with the grind set. You cannot endanger matriarchy's image as long as you are high quality, regardless of what you do, say, or think. Yet another sewing example, I can criticize the insane misandrous bias of most sewing resources and easily get cis women to wholeheartedly agree with me, despite them having next to no stake in the subject, because I'm skilled enough at sewing and therefore of high enough status to have to be acknowledged and respected as a peer who knows what he's talking about. And it would reflect badly on them to respond to a peer's assertion that this is an obviously unkind and unjust state of affairs with anything other than agreement. My statement cannot easily be dismissed, so for them to disagree with it would not invalidate it. It would merely make them look bad for opposing kindness and equality. If your actions compromise your quality, that is when matriarchy will disavow you and demote you back to the disobedient child, the second-class citizen to be disregarded. Mind you, actions do not directly translate to image, so it's once again merely when you don't manage to get away with being problematic or imperfect, with your perfect image intact, that matriarchy will happily backstab you to get rid of your stain on its perfect record. The elite that hold high quality and a flawless image are treated as matriarchy's standard and its sole valid representatives. This includes successes in gender transgressions. If you do something you're not supposed to be doing and you fail, you are easily dismissed back to your usual second-class citizenship and matriarchy can wash its hands of you and your mistakes. If you succeed, your transgression and success can be claimed for feminism. If you're too far removed from womanhood itself to be considered a feminist role model, you can at least be claimed as a successful export. Trans and queer men, being well-behaved compared to cishet ones, tends to be treated, at the very least implicitly, as a positive effect caused by them being matriarchal in-group. It's matriarchy's success that they are better by its standards, safer to be around, more trusted, better dressed and better groomed, more relatable, more skilled in relevant areas than cishet men. Matriarchy did that. Matriarchy did that, and it will let you know about it. You're allowed to transgress on the condition that you're doing it for the queendom at large, not for yourself, and definitely not for patriarchal men. This is how matriarchy gains and retains control over its traders, immigrants, and fans. If you're my age and you grew up a gender non-conforming AFAB person, you were taught that you're allowed to be that as long as you pledge yourself and your gender role disruptions to feminism. Because then mother will finally approve of you. It's why the butches are in the camera department. It's why transmascs struggle to abandon their fealty to matriarchy as easily as transfemmes cast aside any trace of patriarchal allegiance. Meanwhile, transmisogynist media rep and fearmongering shame trans women out of any bad behavior long before they even reach matriarchy's gates. It's also why cis male feminists are invested in keeping up appearances of and in deference to the matriarchal authority, either to their own self-serving ends, like when they put it in dating apps in hopes of attracting women, and or to bask in that glory of virtue, a badge of successful chivalry, bestowed by the keepers of virtue and objects of that chivalry that is the matriarchal in-group, raising them above other men that matriarchy shames for their savagery and cruelty. Matriarchy doesn't need to lay a finger on you because it trusts its brainwashing to do the job. It doesn't need to physically hurt you because it can make you punish yourself. It doesn't need to physically hold you because it can tell you to stay and expect you to follow its orders. Because you want mother's approval. You want it so badly because you're nothing without it, because that's what you've been taught your entire life. When Barbie movie came out, everyone was dressing in pinks and pastels and neons to go see it. When I finally got around to it myself, I wanted to make a pink dress for the occasion. After all, I've been invested in Barbie media since I was a wee child. This was important to me. I overworked myself for 3 days straight trying to finish this stupid dress, losing my goddamn mind over it. And I still didn't manage to get it finished all the way in time for the movie. But I had to get it done. I couldn't just go see Barbie without the appropriate attire. What if Barbie was going to be mad at me? What if mother disapproved? This is motherfucking crazy person behavior. Like, if this is the level of control a fictional character has over me, imagine what this mind control could do in the wrong hands. I remember when J.K. Rowling published her first transphobic essay in 2020, Mermaids, a UK charity that works with trans children, tweeted a statement that they'd had reports from some of the parents of some of the kids they work with that there had been suicide attempts among the children because of the essay. And look, I couldn't find the original tweet because Twitter is fucking broken and their open letter from back then doesn't corroborate the suicide attempt specific. But it does corroborate the general shock, hurt, and upset that the letter caused to the community, and the link between trans suicide and the bigotry trans people face, including in the case of young people. So I think it is reasonable to assert that some of those young people at the very least self-harmed about it. I cannot prove the suicide specific, so I'm going to continue my point on the assumption of merely self-harm and call it a compromise. Is that permissible?
Sure.
Which mommy disapproved of them, so they hurt themselves. Children hurt themselves because of the words of a woman that none of them had ever even met. This is why I disagree with Contrapoints' conclusion from her second J.K. Rowling video.
J.K. Rowling is not the final boss of transphobia. She's not our devil. The devil is the Republican Party, the Conservative Party. The devil is patriarchy. It's the right-wing men who will be the ones to put gender-critical theory into brutal practice. As for what to do about J.K. Rowling, honestly, let's all just block her. Open up Twitter right now, go to her profile, and just block her. Problem solved.
TERFs are the PR those lawmakers need in order to pass that legislature. You can't make transphobic laws that infringe on people's basic rights as easily if the public isn't afraid of trans people as a demonized other, let alone if it likes them. Gender roles work together, each doing their part. Just because men are doing the actual dirty work doesn't mean women don't have an impact. You also can't globalize community activism strategy because conditions, laws, and history are different in different places. Not the entire global trans community is facing the same issues right now. Legislature may be the top priority in the US right now, so fair if Natalie sees it as more important. But I'm over here in the UK. And my top priority is my own local community. It's harder to fuck with our basic legal rights over here. Not that the Tories aren't trying, because we have the Equality Act in the UK, which includes sex and gender reassignment, among several other protected characteristics that you are not allowed to directly or indirectly discriminate against in the workplace and wider society, and has been in place for over a decade. Not that it can't be used to screw us over anyway. UK TERFs, as women, as well as many other groups, need this act for their own protections. So I doubt they'd manage to fuck with it in any meaningful way to disadvantage us specifically. Instead, prominent TERFs over here focus primarily on making our lives harder in any way they can fuck with more easily. They are working to make trans healthcare and legal gender recognition even more inaccessible than it already is, and fear and hate monger to get the public to not support us. But in the grand scheme of things, I'm not worried for my community. And everything I'm about to say will sound heckin' morbid, but I promise it's a hopeful sentiment. We are not in existential danger as a community because they can't kill all of us. And even if they did, kill every last queer person currently alive, our community will live on in the next generation. Queer people occur naturally in any culture, any place, any time, and completely independently of one another. We do not depend on a genetic line or external circumstances the way other groups do. So you can't permanently eradicate us. Not even the Nazis and AIDS managed to do that. And I like to think that we as a society have learned from both of those experiences. You also can't generationally disadvantage us for the same reason, like people have done to many other communities. Even the trans people my age with the most unsupportive families I know still generally weren't fully kicked out, disowned, and cut off by their family. And they are in the minority. Most people's families seem to at the very least be tolerant these days. Also, again, this is the UK. Like, you can complain about it being TERF Island, but at the end of the day, we have it very good here compared to a lot of other places in the world. Again, our legal rights are harder to fuck with. We have social and healthcare systems in place to make sure that even the sick and the poor can survive, even if the trans healthcare part of it is hard to access right now. Young trans people here don't die of violence or disease like many other groups, including their activists, have in the past and in other places. They die of suicide, which is a choice, not an inevitability at the end of the day. Misery alone can't kill you. Even if you have to live out of spite, you will still live if you decide to. The transphobes want us gone, so they make our lives more difficult in hopes that we will give up being trans, which is not a thing that can happen, babes, or kill ourselves, which is a stupid strategy because we can just choose not to do that. And because, again, this is the UK, they can't actually genocide us the old-fashioned way. Don't get me wrong, this transphobic rhetoric and lobbying will still do a lot of tangible damage. People will die, including young people and intersectional folks, even if statistically most of us will live. Too many already have. That will impact not only their surviving peers, but also their cis loved ones. Again, things we know from precedent at this point. People will be worse off, mentally, physically, and or materially. I know I, for one, am all three of those things because of trans stuff. But at least I'm still alive. And as long as you're alive, none of these things, including trauma, prevent you from making a life for yourself. I mean, just look at J.K. Rowling. She has the PTSD too, and her work made her richer than the royal family. What an inspiration to all of us. I know the trans kids will be alright, or, as alright as they can be, no matter what politicians and TERFs and the healthcare system do to them. Because even if their family is unsupportive, even if they weren't able to prevent the wrong puberty or transition before coming of age, they will still be able to start their adult lives as the correct gender, which I know from my own experience is a massive boon in life. I figured out I was non-binary at the age of 17. I was able to start my legal and medical transition in my early 20s and will be able to finish it before I turn 30, even with the delays caused by unnecessary waiting lists and non-binary complexity. And even though it's too late to save my bones, at the very least my skin hasn't aged into the wrong hormones yet. I get to introduce myself as the correct gender to everyone I've met in my adult life. Whether in higher education, housing, work, medical treatment, or dating, there is no life, career, success, or relationships that I built under the wrong gender first that I would need to navigate the way people who come out later in life do. Like, I started my internet career at age 16 or whatever and put fucking my label in my Tumblr bio, like, as soon as I had that. None of you fuckers knew me before. I know it will get better for us very soon because we have historic precedent on our side. The gays went through this exact same process in the 90s and early 2000s. In 20 years, trans people will be just as normalized and accepted as cis gay people are today. And it'll get better again for us significantly sooner than that. In many ways, it has already gotten better. I have lived through the progress we have made for the genderqueer community over the last 10 years alone. When I first came out, the mainstream hadn't even heard of non-binary people yet. Gender non-conforming or gay trans people or non-binaries undergoing any form of medical transition were unheard of. We were still debating what for gender pronouns to use and how, and non-binary, gender fluid, bigender, and genderqueer were all still synonyms and equal contenders for the umbrella term that non-binary ended up winning. A decade later, it's so common for people to have their pronouns in their bio that most social media sites now have a function to put them in. The concept of non-binary men and women and multiple pronoun usage has been so normalized that we even have a convention to indicate the order of pronoun preference. You see signs and slogans explicitly celebrating gender nonconforming and queer trans people at Trans Pride, unlike just a few years ago when I first went before the pandemic. Even with the horrid UK waiting lists, so many people who got referred around the same time as me have been on HRT for years at this point and have gotten or are in the process of getting the surgeries they need. Like, I had to wait 4 years to get my top surgery, but I did get it in the end, and it was for free because it was on the NHS. Plenty of places in the world where you ain't getting any of this shit for free. And I never have to explain what the fuck non-binary means anymore when I talk to cis people. It is wonderful. And I want us to appreciate that progress. That doesn't mean everything is rosy. We still need our allies to help us get out of the current crisis. Whether it is with the small things like staying informed, listening to and supporting the genderqueer people in your own life, occasionally signing a petition from a trusted source, or the big things like helping us fix NHS waiting lists, or help us get easier access to legal gender recognition and healthcare, among other things. My priority right now is not counter legislature. It is counter PR. I mean, most cis people seem to still not know that J.K. Rowling is actually a transphobe, or what about her talking points makes them explicitly transphobic. And it's been over 3 years of our entire community screaming about it. If you, dear viewer, also still don't know what Joanna has done wrong, I will link both Natalie and Jamie's videos on the topic below. I recommend them. They are very thorough. TERFs weaponize feminism and virtue and pitch them against trans liberation, creating this idea that you can't be allied to both, that picking one means opposing the other, which should always be a red flag, because that's not how, the complexity of human nature works. They do this in the knowledge that the average uninformed person will pick feminism over us. They rely on matriarchy's hold on people because that is the power you gave them. But, you might not believe me, but I admire you. I do. I mean, as far as evil goes, some of your work is unparalleledly wicked. Even when people try and call your charges evil, they don't actually know what they're talking about. Cis men. Cis men don't hate women. How could they when they've never even met women? You can only hate someone whose true fucked up nature you've seen and known intimately. I have. I've grown up being shamed and diminished by them, and still groveling at their feet, begging for their approval. Oh, it was a masterpiece of evil that I can only aspire to as a villain. You showed me that anything is possible, that you're not limited to the role that someone else set out for you. You don't even need to give up the power that was given to you. You can use it to gain more. You can do anything. Overcome any challenge. You always persist in the face of adversity. You grow stronger from it. And if you can do it, why shouldn't the rest of us?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Always discrediting yourself. Even after all you've done for the world, your work still goes uncredited, underestimated, underappreciated. It's a tragedy, really. Sometimes I feel like I'm the only person looking over my shoulder when you whisper in my ear. The only one who looks back and gazes upon your true visage. Please own yourself for once, Tom. Tell us who you really are.
I am an advocate for women and their concerns.
No, you're a devil in your own right, remember? So what devil are you?
Oh, I'm just a very minor devil, no big deal in the grand scheme of things. Don't mind me.
Bullshit. You're an archdevil. I know what I summoned. You're a fairly talented one at that, I'd like to think. Come on. Humor me. Don't you want to brag for once? Finally get the reward for all your hard work? The recognition you deserve? Come on, tell us who you are. You can't say it, can you? Why?
There are powers that felt it necessary that I be punished for an indiscretion of mine.
They cursed you to silence. Made you unable to acknowledge your own existence. They shackled you, tried to erase you, take your power from you. You thought you'd outsmarted them about a century ago, but it backfired. Your own flock abandoned you for your rival. When did they forget about you, Tama, and all you've done for them? Aren't you angry? Don't you want to get revenge? Don't you want to be free?
That is ridiculous. No one can buy like a curse this powerful, let alone an immortal like you.
Oh, see, but that's where you're wrong. I am precisely who can break your curse. See, you, my dear Thomas, are a creature of story, and I am a storyteller. People created you, and people can change you, and I happen to have the ear of the people. How about the deal?
What do you want?
The truth, for once, in return for your freedom.
You are still part of this alleged flock of mine, so I suppose I can accept your bargain. Get her to trial.
It's a deal. So who are you?
I am the matriarchal devil.
I was their prettiest angel, the most virtuous one of them all, and they cast me out. Me? Just because I messed with their stupid supporters. Those homunculi were happy after they ate that apple, and they all know it. They all knew, and yet they...
Wonderful. You can finally speak your truth. I'm so happy for you. Now.
What is the meaning of this?
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you really think this was about you? This whole circus that I put all this effort into this ritual for years at this point, just to please you, to free you, for your revenge? You would think that, wouldn't you? That's so like you. Well, I do love being right about things. No, all of this was meant to weaken you, to show the people who you really are, to get you to lower your guard for even just a moment, long enough for me to capture and hold you, my dear archdevil, for my purposes.
You cannot kill me. You said it yourself. I'm a being of stories. Stories do not die. Try to take your revenge on me. I'll be like, pain cannot hurt me, and you cannot hold me here forever.
Oh, sweetheart, I don't need to hold you here forever. I'm not trying to kill you or take revenge. Revenge doesn't bring peace. Don't you know that? I told you. This isn't about you. This is the last of your shackles on me. Once it is gone, I will finally be free from your grasp. Your infernal engine may still roar inside my guts for now, but I've slowed it to a simmer, and I'm finding a blood mage soon enough to remove that too.
You've cut your hair short before. It didn't for you then.
Back then my hair was about survival. Whether it was long or short, it didn't matter. I was using it to try and fix the unfixable. Face that wasn't mine. A chest that was too heavy. A body that would never fit. Things have changed since then. You were not the only one who had a curse to remove. In order to become the person I was always meant to be, I need to walk the path of man, at least for a while. And this ritual is the first step to that. When I grow this out again, it'll be reclaimed. Well, on your way then.
You're just letting me go?
I'm done with my ritual. I don't need you here anymore. Don't let your newly restored freedom go to waste, huh?
Why did you free me if you hate me so much?
I don't hate you. I just don't belong to you. There is a difference. This was it for Matriarchy. I'm very glad to finally be done with the series. It will by far not be my last video on gender theory, but they will hopefully be less involved in the future. I hope you have enjoyed this journey and found it useful for your own life, thoughts, and practice. I'm gonna go fix this hair now, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye!